Yeah, almost all Jewish people go to the synagogue, whether secular or religious. You go there at least a few times a year, whether it's for your bar mitzvah or holidays. I was there myself a few times, and it's something really interesting, all in all. As a secular person who went to the synagogue, I didn't understand anything from what's going on there, but I was really impressed by the details, by the very explicit and meticulous customs, how everything seems strange. Everyone wears a talit and reads in the Torah, and it's really long. And as a girl, it was kind of boring, but I'd really like to find out what's behind these customs so maybe I can understand what is so essential about this place where people gather, where people pray. It's considered to be the most holy place of ours where we go to as Jewish people. What actually is a synagogue? What does it mean? Why does this custom exist in our religion? Sometimes you catch me really off guard, completely unready for your topics. Okay, let's see. First of all, I'm really sorry to hear that you were to the synagogue only a few times in your life. And also, it really pains me to see how disputed and separated our people is to a point of not going into such a place that maybe belongs to some other ethnic group or vice versa, where everyone has this special feeling against that synagogue or against this synagogue and so on. Meaning, we live in a way that doesn't suit the place, which is the home for the gathering of the people. The Beit Knesset, the synagogue, it has to give us a feeling that we're entering this special bubble that we call our people. And we made out of the concept of the synagogue something which is this is mine, this is his, this is theirs, and it became a place that separates and distances the part of the nation from one another. What's going on is actually terrible, and this is why it's called that we're in exile. The synagogue started when the people of Israel became a people under the rule of Abraham, our patriarch, who started connecting all of those Babylonians who wanted to know what is the meaning of life, the purpose of life, what's the meaning of this crisis which came over Babylon back then. And he started connecting them. They were very separated. There were many nations there that later on gave roots to all of the nations of our world today. Everything comes from ancient Babylon. And therefore, Abraham, that started connecting them, he collected them together in his one tent, the women in Sarah's tent, and he started explaining to them about the meaning of life, that it's connection, and that inside the connection we attain the higher force. And if we can be together, then by that we resemble the one unique and unified higher force, and then this way it's revealed between us, and therefore the connection, our connection, is called holy because we discover a special holiness. Kodesh, kadosh in Hebrew means special, distinguished, and they dedicated a special place for the gathering, for the connection, for the teaching, for the prayer. And therefore, that's how this place is called. Bet Knesset, Beit, home, Knesset, gathering. That's where people that want to be united gather. And this is the place which is intended for that. When they come there, they unite, that being the main thing, and they pray out of that connection to be connected even more strongly in order to achieve the higher force in an even clearer more powerful way in the connection between them, and this way, from day to connect more and more with the Creator. And therefore, this place is special. By the way, all those places where we live, where we work, they need a mezuzah. Bet Knesset, a synagogue, doesn't need a mezuzah. On the contrary, because our connection protects us, keeps us, and then one way or another, we're connected with the Creator there, with the higher force. And therefore, there's no need to put up signs or make any corrections, but our biggest correction that the Creator is with us and is protecting us, keeping us, is when we're connected between us. And therefore, it's a place for connection and prayer. This is the Bet Knesset, the synagogue. And of course, throughout our history, we went through many changes and ascents and descents and coming closer to this force of the Creator and distancing from Him in His revelation and concealment. And accordingly, this is how the synagogue is, and the matter of the connection, prayer. During the time that we're in exile, it became something very formal, artificial, I'd say. Whereas the synagogues that existed while Israel, whereas the holy people, meaning that the connection between them was so correct and good that they discovered the higher force that dwells between them, the so-called the Shekhinah, that the Shekhinah, divinity, was among us, between us. Then in those times, we were really in a very special form of force and connection and understanding and feeling and attainment and divinity, godliness dwelled among us. And then 3 times a year we had pilgrimages to our special place of connection, which is called the Shlosha Regalim, the 3 pilgrimages, where we used to come to Jerusalem, but in other states we used to gather wherever we were, and we used to connect there between us and make a connection between us, a gathering, and pray. Afterwards, it was already made into a custom that every Monday and Thursday, aside from the Shabbat, we used to gather for special prayers. And it also had to do with the market day, that people came from afar to a place where there was a market, to a city, suppose. And in those places, during these days, there were prayers and so on. There are many things about this. Now, a synagogue has also laws of its own. How do you go in? How do you connect? The order of the prayer, which was written for us by the members of the great Knesset, the great Kabbalists that lived before the destruction of the temple, before the ego broke out and took control over us, in times that we ourselves were above our ego in the force of bestowal, love, general, mutual love. Then these synagogues were really used for connection. Whereas today, it's ceremonies, unfortunately. This is what happens. And therefore, both those that go there to pray, the main thing is to get over with the prayer and go home. And also those that don't go there, that don't feel any warmth there or any inclination towards going there, that it gives them something. Unfortunately, we are truly in exile. I remember when me and my family traveled to Europe as tourists, we went into ancient synagogues. I don't remember that I felt this sense of emptiness there, because it was all in all a building and it's supposed to be a place where you feel the Creator. Nothing. I was in dozens of countries around the world and in dozens and dozens of synagogues, and in none of them did I feel any warmth, attraction, a place that's really appealing or is attracting me. People pray in a very simple manner. They come, they barely look at each other, they do the ceremony and go home. So what's supposed to happen there? What are we supposed to feel there? Without the soul, meaning without the connection that we attain between us, these places, they exist like in exile, like everything else, that it's lifeless. And therefore, unfortunately, this is the state to this day. And let's hope that we will be able to explain to the people that the main thing is love another as thyself, to be as one man and one heart, where then the places that we can work at it is the place that's called Bet Knesset, the synagogue. Beit, bait, it means the kli, the vessel where all of us can go in and work on our connection above the ego and there talk about it and want to connect, and as a result operate a prayer with an intention out of a real outburst of feelings, all of us together to the higher force to connect us, to dwell among us. Let's hope that sometime it will happen. And I'm happy that we are in such times that we're really getting closer to it, even though that the road's still long, because there's a kind of a frivolity here, and the people, they don't get the right education. And this is how we're still in a lengthy exile.